So, we have the map veto system for you. We'll see where we're going, where we won't be going. Border is not going to be played at all this play day, so you don't have to worry about that. If you hate the map, congratulations, you don't have to see it today. EG starting on defense, Excelerate starting on attack, and we're going to go to the same map that the teams squared off on at the start of the season, in which EG gave EXG an absolute drubbing, 7-1 Coastline.
Yeah, that first game of the season wasn't exactly close. Now, granted, that was 6 months ago. That was, well, not 6 months ago because super month. It was a long time ago. That was back in January. And that was with a different roster for EXG. With this roster, there's been some changes. Take a look at the community vote and see what you guys back home are thinking between this matchup. Yeah, that's not very shocking. Not too much to read into there.
Yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. EG is an incredibly popular team. Even when they're not performing, they still tend to do well in community votes, and they have been performing. And if you just look at this matchup in particular in a bit of a vacuum, EG just crushed them 7-1. It wasn't particularly close. Achieved a good performance, if I remember correctly, but that game for EG was carried by both Necrox as well as Young, and NVK had some pretty good performances as well. Coastline has been a very interesting map for EG because I know that we had actually mentioned on one of the broadcasts a couple weeks ago that it wasn't necessarily statistically their best map, but Troy rebuked that, turning around and saying that, yes, we do feel that we get results on it. We're very confident on it. And there's obviously a monkey on their back regarding the ways that they've gone out in Coastline. They haven't exactly had the best faring against Coastline. Both invitationals, they lost their series on Coastline in both of them, so clearly there's something at play there. But they're going up against EXG today in a matchup that for EG is really just for bragging rights at this point. Even if they lose and everybody else wins today, EG sits in that first place spot. This is really for their round differential. This is an opportunity to possibly try some new things out. For Excelerate, the stakes are obviously much higher. You saw they came in 6th place. They obviously want to avoid getting that 7th spot. Not auto-relegated, but at least having to fight for their spot. And if you've been following North American Challenger League, it's been a bit of a slide for Organized Chaos. The first team in North America that qualified for the playoffs in Challenger League. That's the squad that has Oasis, Art, Foltz, Gurmy, and Merc. Obviously, Gurmy Wormy, being a former pro player, announced a couple days ago that he's actually stepped off of the team, so there's likely going to be a new 5th member of Organized Chaos. They've been on a bit of a slide recently. Every event that they've played in, every match they've played in over the last little while, haven't had the best performance. On the Ascendancy was a team that I think a lot of people thought should have been first overall in Challenger League, which is the Susquehanna Sonics. They've been looking in tip-top shape as of late.
Yeah, and there's a couple others rounding out. So everyone talked about, Vicious, the former team known as 92 Dream Team. They've now left the org, so they're no longer Vicious. But I guess they're going back to the
92 Dream Team.
Back to the 92 Dream Team. They had a rough start to the CL season. I don't think they picked up a win for the first 4 games, and then they kind of bounced back a little bit. They're still hanging with it in the playoff picture. Elevate, another former org that was in Pro League, is now back in NA Challenger League. If you guys are fans of Elevate, I know there's a lot of them out there that still rock Elevate charms and emotes in chat. Elevate had a strong start, but they've started to taper off a little bit. And then Disrupt, another team that looked like they were going to be a very strong contender last season in Challenger League. That was up until Gotcha left to go coach Evil Geniuses, our team tonight. And then they brought in a replacement player for the playoffs, and they didn't fare too well. So they're back. They've got Yeti on board as well, former member of Orglis. Team's looking good. So the playoff picture in NACL right now is looking incredible. If you're EXG, if you're Rise, don't even try and flirt with that kind of disaster, because it could be the end of your life in Pro League.
We've spent quite a bit of time, I suppose, talking about the leagues under Pro League, be they events, be they amateur leagues, etc. And Challenger League exists in this semi-professional bubble, whereas a lot of these players are getting, paid salaries to compete. There's obviously a prize pool as well for Challenger League. So it's a bit of a different stakes than just playing in a community league. But when you look at Challenger League, North American Challenger League for so long, at least as long as I've been following it, has really been characterized by having 3 good teams and then 5 teams that just kind of haven't really hung around all that much. There's a lot of chaos, shall we say, in those rosters, and they're constantly making roster moves. They're dumping players, they're changing things up, they're not following by going with orgs, they're just kind of playing under funny names, etc. But I think this is really the first season where it seems like North American Challenger League has paid as much attention to themselves and being as good as they possibly can as other regions. I think right now the gold standard for Challenger League is still Europe. They tend to take Challenger League supposedly the most serious. I actually think we could see EU Challenger League expand to 16 teams and see quite one hell of a fight between all of them, given how deep the talent pool tends to be in Europe. But I'm glad to see that North American Challenger League is taking it, I don't want to say more seriously because that sounds almost patronizing, but I do like to see that the skill gap between the lower Challenger League teams and the higher ones has closed by quite a lot.
Yeah, it's shrunk immeasurably. We're jumping in, though. Okay. I'm going to assume that was a mistake, but no one's calling for a rehost or anything. So, I mean, this is an option. No one ever does it in a normal game.
Is it the first time we've seen that in a pro game?
I'm going to go with yes.
I can't remember the last time there was no ban.
So, yeah, if no one is aware, no one's tested out the banning feature or anything, you didn't play the SI playlist, you haven't played customs, yeah, you can just choose to not ban an operator. It has, yeah, like I said, I don't think it's happened in a pro league match to this day, so we're starting off interesting. Okay, EG. They're taking their sweet time on a defender maybe ban. This could also be a no ban.
Survey says, all right.
Cool.
So there's saving strats. There's saving strats. And then there's saving strats.
Yeah.
And I think we have the latter here. Oh,
this is going to be a fun night. This is going to be a fun night.
Clearly a lot on the board here for Evil Geniuses.
Oh, yeah.
High stakes.
Tons.
And let's be honest here. This is a 2 trillion IQ play. All right. That's a lot of ACOGs.
That's a lot of ACOGs.
Yeah. So there's a theory in North America right now, there's a theory in the lower levels of play that when in doubt, cog it out.
Hey, they went 5 ACOGs. Let's go, baby.
And there's an ACOG on the board for every single member of EG. So there you have it. Look at that. Are we about to witness the first election of the mayor of Spawn Peakville? Because it does appear so, as EG will start at the double bars downstairs and the communal gathering of the rook plates will go underway.
And pass them around. Make sure everybody gets their extra protection. Yeah, I imagine this is going to turn into a bit of a... I don't even want to phrase it that way. Let's just go with aggressive game. That's probably the easiest way to try and describe what is about to happen. Evil Geniuses probably with 5 ACOGs. It's an understandable estimation you could make that they might want to go for gunfights here.
There's very limited utility on the board from EG as well. Your utility is going to be in the hands of Kaid, Echo, and Maestro. And yep, it looks like every person is going to spawn peek to some extent. Everybody's got different angles, and Geo's just going to exist outside. All right. Look at this. This is a shooting gallery, to say the least. And amazingly, nobody gets spotted. Not a single person. Nobody.
Nobody gets spotted. Nobody takes any damage whatsoever. No altercation between any of the 10 players in this server. Not a single one come to blows after a 4 to 5 man spawn peek attempt.
The 5 cog squad, as we can call it. It has given EXG a bit of greater pause. And I think if you're EXG, especially if you're Pojo Man, who has joined this roster and by far and away has the most experience at a high level of competitive play, very similar to like you see in traditional sports. When a team is looking to make a possible playoff run or something along those lines, they'll bring in the veteran. Possibly able to get the first kill here is Canadian, but no, he's going to get downed by Biologic, taking the chance, and you say goodbye to the Doc. Not promoted, not earned in any way, shape, or form. But Necrox will trade it back on Nishlongi. You can hear that DMR doing good work. Achieved will be able to outduel NVK inside of security. So 2 bodies for EG have fallen as they're all going to take close range fights. Necrox getting very aggressive, possibly trying to get the head of the Zofia, but Achieved will be able to win out just watching around the door frame. Geo is nowhere near the site. He's just playing inside a kitchen, which just leaves Young all by his lonesome. Though Geo does have the Yokai drone for some possible support if need be.
And you see Young looking through this double punch hole setup that he's got all the way from behind the cubby inside of Sunrise, the depths of Office, through all the way across in Blue Bar. You got a breach charge coming out onto the Blue Bar wall from Office, and looks like Gio's going to try and attempt to flank towards the main lobby momentarily. He's got some prone punch holes in the wall at service by Kegs. You got more drones coming out from EXG as they have the 4v2 handed advantage, and now Young is going to be rotating in the midst of Sunrise. He tries to relocate to a safer angle. He doesn't really have a play here other than stand and fight. It's going to be up to Gio to be the difference maker. Now, Gio's made it into the main lobby as the wooden barricade behind Young will evaporate. It's the lifeline from Achieve, popping that open and holding an angle, waiting Young to peek. You still have the Yokai drones in place as well to stall out plants, but Gio is going to take the peek instead. You've got teammates calling on the drones, but no pings coming out to stop the plant. Crusher almost done, and he will complete this in behind the Blue Bar. Now Young and Gio trying to descend in through the courtyard and the Blue Bar door. They're not finding any targets, though, as EXG have peeled back beautifully. In behind the bar now, crouching up and down as Young is trying to grab at least one target, and Crusher on a drone will be the first to fall. Just spots the head of another one outside of the Blue Bar window, but can't land the shots either. A flank coming out from Gio now. He's the last man alive. Young will fall, but a good trade there from Gio onto Pojo. Leaving it in a 1v2, but we're over half the time elapsed on the diffuser, and Bio will clean that one up from the Blue Bar window. An easy wrap up there for EXG as Evil Geniuses try to take the fight to them.
A very intriguing start to see. I would like to know if we're going to see more of that from Evil Geniuses. Hard to really dive into the analysis behind this, as you can clearly see that EG have banned no operators. So that's interesting. Are they letting them pick their operators for them? I was wondering.
It looks like NVK did.
If you don't pick an operator by the time the timer expires, it auto-picks an operator for you. And I was wondering if we were about to see the ultimate strat roulette of strat roulettes, with just letting the game pick your operators, but EG locked them all at the last second.
I'm cool with that.
It's exciting.
It is.
It's exciting. It's exciting to see.
It's such a mess. I love it.
A little bit more utility on the side of Evil Geniuses in a lineup that doesn't look too out of place. As you've got a Legion to be able to stop the advances, you've got your grenade denial, you've got... The only thing that's really kind of strange is the Rook, but I mean, Rook isn't that weird. It's just you usually see a Doc run in this place a lot of times. That's really it. Everything else looks pretty par for the course with EG.
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more, I guess, role swapping. We've seen that at a G2 from there. I guess mixing and matching with knowing that they wouldn't be at Milan for a while now. Just trying new things and seeing if they stick. So I thought Evil Geniuses might be attempting that, but for right now, everyone seems to be in their mainstay role. We can obviously wait until later on. It's only been one round, and last round also wasn't very indicative of their typical roles. I'm waiting to see some more curveballs here from Evil Geniuses, I guess. Everything in this round so far has been standard, but I doubt they want to play a singular round standard to the way they would normally play.
I mean, people like to joke about saving strats, but in all reality, if you have a matchup where you don't really need to show what you usually do, you're going to take that opportunity. You know, why do you need to give away possible strategies or mindset or even the smallest bit of your thought process in an altercation that doesn't really matter, right? For Evil Geniuses, this matchup is the final one of their season, but it's not going to change anything in the standings. And not that you try to underplay the match between the two teams, but it's very clear just from the way that if you look at the standings and the way that these seasons have played out, that EXG is a lot more on the line. It makes a lot less sense if EG were to fully bust out all of their strategies, knowing that they could possibly conserve some of those for Milan. So you have a chance here now where you can play a little bit more fun and maybe not the same routine strat-heavy way that you've played before. For EXG, you're going to see just a normal match as usual. In fact, for them, this is actually probably higher stakes than most of the matches they've played so far this season.
Well, it's going to be Crusher vaulting in over the luggage balcony as he teleports through space and time to do so. He'll make it safely into luggage, though, and Young with a beautiful peek onto Bio, repelled out onto the aquarium balcony and angling in for two now. Shoots the drone, will back off to safety, playing it slowly onto Crusher here. Doesn't have the health advantage. He's dropped below 50 now from that engagement against Biologic, but now it's Crusher to push in. Pulling out the Inox detectors. He's got another repel coming up, and Crusher will claim the life of NVK way back in the site, but Canadian with a run out through the office door will trade out Schlongy, so Evil Genius is back with the man advantage. 2 stacked inside of luggage, and they're not going to last very long. Young bearing down and will remove Crusher from play. This diffuser surrendered as well inside of luggage, leaving Achieved now to step on a Legion mine in the pixel angle from Young held, almost decapitating, but now they'll regroup. Pojo and Achieved joining forces at the top of these theater stairs, and Young taking no quarrels, and will fall eventually to the LMGE of Achieved, leaving just Achieved and Pojo left to work out of this.
Still some utility on both sides for these two teams. He'll burn out the ADS there from Achieved, but you've got Necrox anchoring down that just small wall on pink. That's usually the spot you're going to see the smoke play out of. He's got Canadian for some covering fire, even though Canadian will have to watch more than one angle now thanks to the X-Karos going off onto that wall just by pink. Necrox will spray on in and find Achieved, which will leave Pojo there, but he'll grab 2 very impressive kills, but it doesn't matter because Necrox will still trade him out. It's going to leave Geo last alive, who doesn't even really need to be involved in anything. He just simply needs to exist, and that's what he's going to do. So EG will answer back, taking a successful defense of Hookah. Still very aggressive from Evil Geniuses. Not showing us too much. A very standard, almost default hold for Hookah, something that you would see in other levels of play by just about any team. That's very normal. You're not really showing anything crazy or innovative, and you just get very aggressive and take the fights, which was essentially why you brought the Rook. Give Young the opportunity to create rotates with those impact grenades. You had a pair of impact grenades in the Legion as well, so maybe a little bit too much, as you don't usually need 4 impacts on Hookah. And you just have Young in a position inside of Aqua where he can just shut everybody down, whether it be outside on the Aqua balcony, as we saw him take the fight to the top of luggage stairs, or over just through the luggage corridor. Doesn't really matter. EG ended up besting EXG, despite the fact that EG still could have stacked up higher on utility. This time around, they're going to run a very familiar lineup. The only substitution that EG has made is Necrox onto Ella instead of Smoke. Everything else looks to be the same.
Yeah, for this match, there's not going to be a whole lot of in-depth analysis from either of us. It's going to be a lot of, did EG's tomfoolery work out, or did it not? Did EXG counter it? For EXG, honestly, I think this is honestly a tougher match than it looks like, and some people might be, I don't know, ridiculing EXG for losing a round against a team that evidently looks like they're just kind of screwing around right now. But that's hard when you're, you could think heading into this game that EXG would take the same kind of prep work they would go into every game, which is, your map hours in advance, which means you're probably dry running for about an hour. Then you're probably scrimming on the map for a couple maps against a different team in a serious form. I mean, like you're going to be practicing running through the map at a certain pace. You're expecting your opponents to be playing at a certain pace as well, with a certain amount of strategy, and then all of a sudden it turns into a peak fest, and that can throw you off kilter, and that could be enough to kind of slow EXG down. It didn't on the first round, but in the second round there, I don't think they were expecting everyone on Evil Geniuses to line up for them inside of Aquarium and start peeking. And for EXG, it's going to have to be a mindset change to try and counteract this spontaneous nature. And it's weird, because that's something we usually talk about with EG, not being able to counteract that spontaneous nature of play.
They have become what they hate.
Either die a hero, or you live long enough.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I was like, he best be dropping that Dark Knight quote.
Yep.
And you did, Robert. Thank you very much.
That's what we're here for.
That's exactly why we're here. So, I mean, you have to emulate the thing that really gets to you, right? And EG has always struggled with that extremely aggressive, unpredictable play style, and now EG seems quite intent on playing it. Though they have played it in the past. They have a very almost calculated aggressive style of play. It's something that we used to see about G2, who have been a little bit less calculated, a little bit more aggressive, and it hasn't really worked out for them this season in particular. But with EG, aggressiveness often pays off. They've got a lot of really good gunners on their side. Here's something you don't see every day. Young is just standing at the service door, waiting to possibly peek out, but he can't go for the second as Crusher will swiftly shut him down. After Young had taken out Schlongy, that's a good bounce back for EXG. You lose the best gun on Accelerate's side, as you'll take the F2 off the board and the Twitch. There's no mirrors or anything like that to really worry about. No, there are no second bans. So you see the Valkyrie and the Capitao, and that's really all that's going to be unavailable in this matchup. Well, of course, outside of Lion and then Mozzie and Gridlock. So only 5 instead of the possible 7 operators. Crusher taking out Canadian. That's Crusher's second kill, as he'd taken Young out earlier on. Got Necroc still stationed down inside of the site with the Maestro not too far off, as NVK will just watch that kitchen window. Geo also above, waiting to see if there's going to be any soft destruction. I think he spies the buck, but he's quite cautious in pulling the trigger. He'll cost Necrox his life, though, as Bio goes down before Geo's able to refrag. Pojo pops up and gets gunned down right in front of NVK, who will now get a couple spots on the Evil Eye Cam. Moving on over, NVK can possibly shred through the 2 members of EXG inside of service. He'll try to hasten the pace just a little bit, but he's a 3 armor, not that fast. Geo's there for some covering fire. And you'll see that both Crusher and Pojo have been downed. Achieved is very low on HP, and still these marks are coming out. Geo will secure the kill that he started earlier on Crusher, waiting to see what Achieved is going to be able to put together. But a bullet anywhere on the body will be his undoing, and it doesn't matter if it's on the leg, it doesn't matter if it's on the chest. EG will pick up their 2nd round in a row, as Achieved could not retake the site with such low HP.
Pretty standard play all around for Excelerate there. I mean, they had 1 guy go upstairs on the top hold. That's probably not enough. You want one for your flank hold instead. Getting peeked at a kitchen window, also not a thing that happens all the time, but NVK taking plenty of chances there, and it worked out for him with that Alda. Seemingly limitless ammo, and then they had the cover for plant. It's one of your most standard rounds you'll probably ever see, with just a few missteps from Excelerate. We go back to Blue Bar and Sunrise Bar. So even though Evil Geniuses, while they seemingly just want to throw convention by the wayside, they still hate Penn Theater, as you should. And they're not going to go to Penn Theater, because they at least have some of their brain cells remaining.
I'm always curious when teams do go to Penthouse and Theater and how much it's changed as a preferred site, right? That used to be the default. Where it was what? I think it was Hookah that saw the least amount of play. Way back in the day, I remember some of the very first map stats that we ever got our hands on after I joined Pro League it was like Penthouse Theater was number 1, Kitchen was number 2, Double Bars was 3rd by quite a bit, and then just behind the Double Bars was Hookah. In fact, I think Hookah was only played like twice or something like that in one of those 3-month seasons or 2-month seasons or whichever, however long they were, way back in 2017. And it was very interesting because now Hookah seems to be, for a lot of teams, the 2nd most preferred site. Kitchen is usually the most defendable, and then Penthouse Theater just doesn't show up.
No.
Unless you're Reciprocity. Reciprocity likes to go to Penthouse Theater, but that's really about it. Most North American teams will avoid that site like the plague, and a big part of that is because you have to control the lobby downstairs, which is exactly where you just saw the mirror of Geo. There's so much soft destruction below. Also over in Kitchen, that it ends up being extremely foolish for you to try and defend. There's just so much area for Penthouse Theater that you have to worry about. Despite it not being Penthouse Theater, you're going to see EG very aggressively defending off-sites. The Double Bars downstairs. You'll start things off with Necrox getting a pick on to Achieved. So the Zofia, who is the last alive, will be the first dead for Excelerate. It'll be even longer for Achieved to be able to sit on the bench and wait. Taking the place of Necrox is Canadian. You see a Twitch drone zap him, and Canadian's position has been given away. He has goo mines to stop the advances of any forces that end up on the other side of him. Just above him is Young, the roaming rook. Exactly where you want to see that 3 armor with the ACOG, and Canadian will still be able to gun down Crusher, knowing that there's going to be a 2nd there, but it's a joint effort between both Pojo Man and Biologic. But would you look at that? Now NVK is on in. This is a beautiful Iron Man.
Thank you.
There you go, you got him. This is a beautiful Iron Man strategy. Everybody from EG is just taking turns defending inside of that office, and they're going to get a lot of kills. The bodies will pile up just outside of the site.
I was about to lose my mind. We're still equalizing at a 2v2, midway point through the round. It's Pojo and Schlongy now to push him through office into Blue Bar. You can hear the X-Kairos ring out, and they'll detonate onto that wall, most likely right beside that mirror. Yep, just on top of the mirror, but I don't think that's vaultable. So they're going to have to utilize another set of X-Kairos. Waste a little bit of more time, but it's not the end of the world. You got plenty of time in the bank, and it's up to Young, who was seemingly going to challenge out of that aquarium balcony and challenge the 3 members waiting outside of the office. Double door outside, but eventually elected to rotate down through luggage and come down the theater stairs for a flank. You know, I got Schlongy wary of a flank, and Pojo. They're both going in through security, headed towards the main lobby doors. Could be going for a rotate towards Young, who's now positioned himself inside of Courtyard. And he's anchored up on the left-hand side of the door frame. Probably one of the least expected spots inside of Courtyard to be played, but now Pojo will wide sweep across with diffuser in hand, and they almost angle in on a beautiful shot there from Pojo. Great read there from the remaining members of Excelerate. And now just unable to lock on the target is Geo, as Schlongy will take 1 bullet to the leg down inside of the main lobby. Looks like it's Schlongy prone inside of the main lobby, looking through these kill holes that have been pre-made by the defense. And Nitrocell gets ripped out by Geo, but not tossed just yet, playing patient. Trying to wait for this plant to go down. The Nitro will be sent out now behind the bar. He'll collect the life of Pojo. That's Diffuser lost. Schlongy has to rush up now for the kill. Sprinting full tilt at the kitchen hallway doors into Sunrise. The pre-fires will miss, and Geo on the re-peek lands it onto Schlongy. Excelerate will lose yet another. Evil Geniuses, the one-man show of Geo, able to clutch that out in a 1v2. Beautifully played. The separation there from EXG, kind of questionable.
Very interesting the way that Schlongy played that. He was in courtyard watching a rotate out. But if you're EXG, you're likely tracking that the last person left is a Mira. You know Mira has a C4. Schlongy was prone, watching the prone holes inside of the blue bar, expecting Mira to rush on out. But, I mean, you know that there's a C4 on the board. You know it. You should know it, at least. Unless EXG were incorrect and thought to themselves, oh, you know, maybe she doesn't have her C4 anymore. But, I mean, we didn't hear a C4 go off earlier on. In fact, was there even another C4 operator that was in play? Because I don't think so. So you have to expect that if you're counting, you know, she would still have her C4. It's a pretty suspect play from EXG. And ultimately, whether that was a deliberate call, hey, hold this, I'm not sure. If Schlongy had been in a position where he was close to the double doors in Sunrise, which would have presented almost a phantom threat to Geo, knowing that somebody was nearby, and that if he did go to pull out that C4, he could still be pressured from the back, I think we would have seen that be played completely differently. EXG, the way they played it, made it really easy for EG to win that round. And Geo didn't even need to peek a second time. He could have just possibly tried to stay alive, though the smart move was to peek back and win the fight against Schlongy because it's an F2. It'll destroy you in a half a second. You don't need that much time to be able to kill the defender with it.
Yeah, it was a Legion, an Ela, Jaeger, Rook, and a Mira. Speaking of one of the operators that I did not just mention, he was NVK on the Maestro this time around. He's peeking double window inside of Billiards, but instead he'll only take about 10 damage from the shots raining out from sounded like Achieve's LMGE, and he's been loving the thing on Zofield as of late, and it's hard not to empathize with the feeling of never having to ever reload ever in any scenario for any reason. 150 rounds in that box magazine of the LMGE. You still have the lifeline. He's also bringing breaching charges, so just the amount of soft destruction that Achieved can rain out onto this poor Spanish map of Coastline. Crusher, though, will collect the first kill onto Canadian. Not really sure how that one transpired. Looked like he was top of theater stairs, most likely. The window is slightly cracked, and there's a rotate hole on the far side. So the roam from Evil Geniuses, part of it anyway, will get shut down, because Lord knows, Evil Geniuses are going to go right back in the next man up formation and continue to contest it.
So a good start for Excelerate. You've taken out one of the best members from EG and somebody who's able to deal quite a bit of damage to you. Not just that, but also is going to be able to give information to the rest of his team, as you see Legion typically do. Geo has been a big difference maker in almost every match that he's played for EG, and when he's not involved, as we've seen Gotcha take his place in a couple matches, well, you can feel it. Not that there's anything wrong with Gotcha, but Geo, I think, has cemented himself as one of the top players in North America, even though that C4 will down but not finish off Pojo Man. Just outside of range of the cardiac sensor is Geo, and keep in mind there are no points on, so you don't know, or Geo doesn't know rather, if there's somebody there. Achieved is above, just waiting, and Geo's still going to hold this angle, but he's going to have beams running the opposite way, so it might be a tougher shot for him to make. He's an accurate player, sure, but he's still going to be working against the grain, so to speak. Yeah, Pojo Man back up, but he's only 20 HP. As usual, that's not an awful lot. That's death by a bullet on most parts of your body.
Yeah, Pojo will get revived, which is nice. I mean, you still have your hard breach should you need it anywhere else, but you're right. There's not really a whole lot he can do, especially being in a plant scenario. But as I say that, Pojo will collect a kill onto Young. The Rook will fall, Achieved in tandem, and Geo on the re-peek. You got NVK with 2 on the Alda as well. It's all falling apart for Excelerate now. They had the 5v3 advantage, and it quickly disintegrates into a 2v3 to try and work out of. Schlongy's made it to the top of Cool Vibe stairs, but they've lost diffuser control, and you've still got Bile repelled out on the big window, taking fire. Rushing into Hookah now, claiming the life of NVK from behind is Schlongy, so the tandem is now evened up in man count. Geo at the vase, and now pressure in behind the bar, but Necrox just ducking under fire, able to land the shots onto Bio. Geo as well, cleaning up duty, and that is Excelerate dropping another one. It's Evil Geniuses on a bit of a run right now.
This is a team that didn't ban a single operator, now taking 4 rounds in a row. On defense.
Yeah.
Keep in mind. The attacker bans that you end up seeing on Coastline, it could possibly be a Glaz, could be a Ying, could be a Shield. There's a Capitao that was already banned from Excelerate, and that's because of how strong Capitao is right now, especially since we saw the changes to his asphyxiating bolts, which now grow in size the longer they go out, despite the fact they do a little bit less damage. It's interesting that we're seeing this, and it's really just EG flexing more than anything. Keep in mind, it was a 7-1 scoreline the first time these teams played, and it looks like, for the time being, there isn't that much that Excelerate is going to be able to do, at least until we switch sides after this round on attack. They were gifted that first round in large part because of EG playing some of the most brazen Rainbow Six that I've seen at a professional level. 5 ACOGs all simultaneously taking fights. Who'd have thought? Not always the best defensive strategy. EXG, still despite that, it came a little close to losing that one too.
The last time EG played Coastline, though, and on that broadcast where you and I talked about EG's tendencies on Coastline, they went up 4-0 over Rise, and then they lost 6 in a row. And then they had to win another 2 in a row just to get it back. So, Evil Geniuses, at least on Coastline anyway, in recent history, have had some trouble closing out the map. Saw that in the SI game. They're on a bit of a run against Reciprocity, the last game in the quarterfinals of SI. Same thing against the Rise game as well. So for Evil Geniuses here, I guess the practice and the method you're trying to work towards here is being able to close out a game without allowing your opponents to claw back in it. That seems to be a problem for Evil Geniuses, not just on Coastline, but as a whole as of late.
All right, it's the very final defense that's going to come out, and it's going to be down on the kitchen. You see no penthouse theater whatsoever, with the bars being played twice, hookah being played twice, and kitchen being played twice. Not that much of a surprise. I am kind of impressed with the fact that EXG is running a hard breach on Coastline every single time. It is a very comfortable role for Pojo Man. We usually see him on a Thermite or a Hibana most of the time, so it wouldn't necessarily be in his wheelhouse to flex off, though he has been called extremely flexible from former teammates. I'm still a little convinced that you could accomplish this better with maybe other utility. You don't necessarily need the X-Kairos unless you're going to be attacking upstairs on Hookah, which is where you usually see them go on that pink wall, in order to alleviate some of the pressure that the defense are going to be putting on you and make it harder to hold down the pink area and possibly rotate between the hookah site and billiards as well.
So the setup upstairs, last time around it was just Bio upstairs, really doing a lot of reconstruction on the floorboards to look down into kitchen. This time, Excelerate sent 3 topside, knowing that the flank from Geo last time was detrimental into their setup. So they reinforce all of these soft destruction operators topside. You still have Canadian in a possible flank, though, over inside of luggage. You got Geo now ascending the cool vibe stairs. You've always had Necrox topside as well in the Legion. So you've got an equalization now in manpower on the top floor from both teams. 3 men per side. Looks like 1 from Evil Geniuses might actually be rotating down now, but Geo's going to come in from the flank through the VIP hallway, and Pojo with a brilliant read will decapitate him as he enters the just bare entrance of that doorway. You still got Canadian at the top of theater stairs as well, who come for another flank in through theater, but apart from that, top hold, well secured for EXG.
Usually don't have a Claymore on that window either over by luggage, so Canadian could have possibly dropped, but he's spotted by a Twitch drone. He's going to get double tased, losing 20 HP in the process. But more than the HP that will be dire for him is the fact that he's also lost the advantage of surprise. So he'll play up top, waiting to try to get back to site. His cross could be held from inside of the main lobbies. You see the plant going down, and there's no information for EG right now. Excelerate looking to be able to bounce back. Young is just a foot away, but doesn't know that through the wall, the planter will go off. We're going to lose that fight to Crusher, though, as Canadian will take 1 down for EG, running out for a possible second, but it's tough. There's only 2 members of EG just left to make that 1. As Canadian will be the last one left, as the entire site has been pushed by EXG. And McKay will fall, and Canadian will look to walk right in. He's going to be covered from 2 separate angles, and just to add insult to injury, it's the sidearm shotgun that you don't really see doing a lot of actual damage from Crusher as he's prone. That's a nice bounce back from EXG, hopefully giving them some momentum to keep this close through the second half as these two teams will switch sides.
What did I say, man? EG have a propensity to allow the teams they're playing to come back into it when they seemingly have a stranglehold. But then again, we've also said that Evil Geniuses not bringing out a lot of the strat book here. This is all off the top of their head. This is just intuition play. This is not well-prepared play from Evil Geniuses. Still be nice to see them, I guess, close out a game in a decisive fashion like they did the first time they played EXG. They've lost the ability to replicate their scoreline now. First game from the very first week of this season was a 7-1 against EXG on this very map for Evil Geniuses, but now the maximum they can grab is a 7-2. At the end of the day, your round differential doesn't mean anything because you don't need it for your tie breaks. The win doesn't mean anything because you don't need the points for seeding. So for EG, having some fun. For EXG, working out the kinks, though. I think this has been a good example of EXG's ability nowadays to be able to counter what an opponent is bringing, even though there's not exactly a hard set strategy from Evil Geniuses. The countering of how many people you're stacking upstairs for your top hold to allow your soft destructors on leniency to be able to maneuver inside of VIP with ease while Pojo was on the cover. It's a good job from EXG to, I don't know, bounce back and switch up the strategies. And for Evil Geniuses, they've brought out a few operators that they typically don't bring, especially on players that they definitely don't run them with. Young on Ashe, Geo on Breach. I'm cool with it. I'm definitely cool with it. NVK on Nomad. I don't think we've seen EG run a Nomad all that much, if at all, lately.
Not that pops to the top of my head, but we have seen quite a bit of Rainbow Six the last little while.
True.
On the border matchup last week, she wasn't banned. Playday number 12 against Dark Zero on Oregon, she wasn't banned. So there's possibility that she could have been brought, but I can't say that I think we've seen her on amidst EG's repertoire, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, also, the bigger one standing out, Young on Ashe. This is very reminiscent of G2 when they were throwing Goga on Ashe and throwing Pengu on Breach. It seems like the kind of same thing here. So on defense, everyone was sticking to their normal roles. On offense, it seems like everyone is trying to swap things up a bit. Have some fun. Flex out into roles you usually don't get to play.
I mean, the thing with G2 is that I can understand why they changed that. When we talked to Fabian, they even said, part of that was because they, gave Jonas a different role and have Pengu on Hard Breach just to see what they could do and see where Goga went. Anyway, first course of action. Eliminate Schlongy. That's EG's game plan. Well, they've done it. Congratulations. They still got 4 other bodies, though. It's going to be a cool vibe stairs push, but there's double bodies from Excelerate. They're stacked up there to greet anybody from Evil Geniuses who decides to push from that angle. Kind of surprised with how much free information EG is getting right now with all of these drones. They have quite a bit of information on Excelerate without Excelerate really knowing that there's anybody around. It's going to continue as Geo just walks in and kills Achieve. Pojoman just trying to defend as best as he can. He's got the MP5K, which is a bit strange to see for a mute. He's going to have a bit of a longer range there if he needs to. No shotgun in his hands. Evil Geniuses will lose NVK, so there goes your possible flank watch. Young's going to just endure as much of that Guma in pain as he can, but he's going to get silenced, and there's another from EXG. But EG will bounce back. Necrox taking down Crusher. It's a 2v2. There goes Necrox to Pojoman, a second kill, and Canadian now with the diffuser down below as Zofia will have to get into the site. But he doesn't have a lot of time to go.
This is your more typical setup for the Canadian, but he's carrying diffuser, which is a good thing. It seems like everyone, though, has read that Canadian will be retreating towards the cool vibe stairs. As he presses up, he's got 2 on his right. Bio on 5 HP. One shot through the benches would end it all, but no. Cut down by the Alda, and Pojo will snipe the frag with the C4. There goes Canadian in the hopes of Evil Geniuses going on a run all the way to the end, to the finish line. Dashed by Excelerate. They pieced together 2 in a row. They're now within 1. This is a similar storyline to their game against Rise. But again, Evil Geniuses. We'll see what they do now with the role swaps, if they stick with them. They are. Okay. I like this from EG.
Why not give it a whirl?
Yeah. And give it an honest shot. Like, give it a good try. Give it a whole game. Honestly. I like this. I'd love to see Young on Ashe more. I think it would just be Young claps for everyone.
Yeah, he did pretty well, too.
He did.
He did.
He did.
I cannot stress to people, by the way, just as an aside, how hard it is to say EXG and EG simultaneously, back to back in the midst of the action. Tough. It's tough.
It's not your favorite combination.
Well, it's like when you have Secretly in Europe playing against Team Secret.
Yeah, that'll be on Friday.
Yeah, when you have Secretly on Chaos playing against Team Secret. Have fun with that one.
Yep. Gonna have a lot of fun.
The tongue twisters are really something. So, anyhow, one thing that was noticed, was flashed on the scoreboard there for just a second, was the fact that Pojo Man, actually right now top fragging on his team. No shade thrown to Pojo Man, and I say this because he just doesn't play roles where he's usually required to get a lot of kills. But he's doing it. And he's still doing it on roles where he doesn't necessarily need to get the most kills. You know, he's primarily been playing Hibana on attack, and then he played Mute on defense, and now he's on Pulse. Don't really know what Achieved was doing there. Probably going for a spawn peek through the front door, but he's going to lose almost all of his HP, and I guess a bit of a fight with Necrox. I could have gone badly. I figure with the way that EG has been playing, you can get really aggressive and still try to confound them as best as you can. It appears to be the case, at least so far. Well, you almost give away your life here, and you're going to lose the rest of Achieve to Young on the window. So it was Necrox who started it off, Young who gets it, so Necrox will be awarded with an assist in the column, but that's going to be it. A lot of people actually don't really think about those windows inside of security, by the way. You often have people playing in security. A lot of times it is specifically a Legion, maybe a Pulse. There's windows there that you can, maybe battle back from. Pojo Man will pick up his 10th kill of the game as he eliminates NVK in explosive fashion. And once again, the Nomad will not be a factor in this round.
No, it's Pojo hitting double digits kills for, I think, the first time in quite a while. I can't recall the last time I saw Pojo at double digits, but the man is nuts, and the man is fragging out right now. Claiming the life of NVK. No more air jabs. Could have got a couple down. We're just approaching the midway point in the round, and we're approaching a standoff between Schlongy and Young. Ash right now is Young, and he's held up inside of security. Looks like he is coming to blows with Schlongy now inside of that main lobby. Schlongy's able to somehow rotate behind the main desk without taking a single point of damage. The flashbangs will come out, indicating that Young is aware of his presence. Pre-fires now from Young, and a plant going down from Geo in the middle of the round, and somehow Necrox is inside of the bathroom as well. The plant gets called and canceled there. Schlongy will tack on for one, Crusher with another one on the Canadian. It's all Geo alone now, who tried to go in for that sneak attack plant inside of Blue Bar. Now he'll have to retreat through the security hallways. He's got 3 to find. One on his backside is Schlongy still holed up inside of the kitchen hallway now, as he's rotated away from the main lobby desk. And that's where the most recent intel would have been on Schlongy from the call-out from Young. And you're just waiting to see if anyone's rotated. Inside of Courtyard, though, will be Bio. Yeah, Crouching Tiger in behind that half wall. It's 3 straight rounds for EXG now. It was a 4-1 lead for Evil Geniuses, now equalized at a 4-4. And in that round there, I mean...
That was chaos.
That was just chaos, yeah.
Absolute pandemonium.
There's not a lot to break down with that one.
Half of EG just seemed to sprint into the site, and next thing you know, almost as if Thanos snapped his fingers, and there's 4 people dead in no time. You almost lose half of the game because of that, at least of the operators that are in the game. I like the bounce back, though, from EXG still.
Yep.
I like that Achieved took the chance on that main door spawn peek. It's gutsy.
It's something.
It shows that you've got... It shows that you've still got a lot of confidence, and you're not in a position where you might be mentally defeated. But this round is probably going to be as equally exciting, because you see a 6th pick onto the Clash from Bio on Accelerate, and I imagine that EXG were anticipating that Young on Finka was going to be 6th pick bait, and Young would switch off. Not to be the case, though. EG didn't use their 6th pick. So you've got one set of frag grenades. You've got some flank denial. You've got the ability to give a lot of good guns on EG's side. Even better, recoil. Even better killing potential. But I really like what Excelerate is bringing in terms of their lineup. You've got Mute as your possible denial onto what appears to actually be a penthouse defense. So that's a bit odd. We will see the very first time that a team will go to penthouse today.
And Pojo Man looks long time.
In a very long time. I think Reciprocity was the last time we saw a team do this. But Pojo's setup with the Mute is going to go downstairs, and a big portion of that is going to be how they roam. This is something that we've seen a lot of times in European teams, actually. They put quite a bit of mute jammers in areas off-site and not really use it for breach denial or info denial on the actual site itself. I'm assuming it might be able to assist Schlongy, who is playing on the other side of that second floor with Pojo over by luggage. So 2 bodies off-site for Accelerate. You got to imagine that Achieved is somewhere off-site as well, because it seems a little wasted that on Penthouse Theater you're going to stick the Pulse on-site.
See that Twitch run from Geo get spotted out by Crusher and Bio. It looked like it was able to make it to safety. So he's trying to angle in and be that hidden stalker, trying to find these mirrors and pop them wide open. This is one of the reasons why Penthouse Theater has fallen off. Not only is it a tough site to defend because you don't have a lot of real estate inside the objective and it's hard to collapse back upon it, but the banning of Mira has also been an issue. They're going to lose 1 mirror, the hard set mirror on the reinforcement on the right-hand wall, and wow, Bio's backside exposed momentarily, and Geo will take full advantage of the rate of fire and the DPS of the F2, dropping him below half HP. Props to him for having nerves of steel, and now you've got 2 Twitch runs right on one another for Geo, and there goes the second mirror now. No. Okay, everything but the mirror is now gone, still attached to the side of the wall right now, as that lifeline wasn't enough to displace it entirely.
It's very interesting the way it's positioned. It probably won't be able to do too much to stop anybody behind it, or at least keep you safe, as the first Adrenal Surge will end. You can see EG is just primed and ready to push on in. They are all in a variety of different positions all over the map. And I'll start off with Canadian. Necrox can't do much. Gun down from Pojo Man. That's kill number 11. So it's been a resurge from the man they call Poj Zera. Canadian just going for broke, but he's going to see Poj. Oh no! He still has time to blow out the MP5K, and he gets Canadian, despite a bit of a miss there. And a panic from Canadian, not knowing which target to prioritize. Still downstairs, Geo's going to see the Pulse, wearing the EG skin. Just a bit of irony as Achieved takes out Young, Geo takes out Achieved. And what's going to happen with the remaining members of EG? Geo's going to try to get upstairs to join NVK, who spotted 2 bodies of Accelerate. You know that one's going to be playing in the back, and Pojo just narrowly misses, losing his head to Geo's Egress up the hallway, over by luggage. MP5K trying to work around the side, Schlongy down to NVK, and both members of EXG are so low that this is very winnable. And it doesn't matter where he hits on the body. Once again, Biologic so low on HP that even though he tries the strat, referred to as the bikini body, it's not going to go anywhere, as he will get bikini bodied by NVK, and EG will take the round.
I hate you. I don't know what the hell happened to Troy there, but hey, man. My game tabbed out mid-gunfight. There you go. That makes sense. Because it looked like the old controller disconnected memes from way back in the day.
It looked like he tried to... It looked like he tried to knife the Clash and then didn't know what to do after that and just kind of...
I thought he was like, yo, Pojo's here too? Yeah, I give up. Just done. Took his hands off his mouse and keyboard. Just surrendered to the will. That is Pojo Man, and a counterpart Canadian as well is Pojo, another Canadian Crusher. So we have 3 Canadians in the match this evening. It's the most we've had in a long time. But for this matchup now, it's EG striking back at the will of EXG, taking another round in their favor. 5 rounds to 4. So we're coming down to the wire in a game that really means everything for EXG and nothing for EG. Been an interesting back and forth contest. A lot of really, really interesting strategies. And I know I'm saying the word interesting a lot, but that's kind of the only nice way I can put it, other than chaotic. There's a lot of entropy. There's just not a lot of structure going on. And that's hard to kind of break down, and that must be hard to play against if you're EXG. Like, I can't understate that enough. If you're a team that's used to playing against structure over and over and over again, you're scrimming, hours upon hours every single day, 5-6 days a week. You're getting ready for your Pro League match, and then all of a sudden, this crap starts happening. It will throw you off. It will not help you that they're playing a little loose. It will mess with you.
This is like the match equivalent of like a beard stroke.
Yes.
Chin stroke, like a is kind of how it would go, and it's been exciting. There haven't necessarily been rounds that have been won off of great teamwork or in-depth strategies. Both teams are honestly just opting to take to the fight, as Necrox does, and Schlongy and Achieved in main lobby will have no answer for the Jackal, who triggers his visor just as soon as he sees the bodies and not necessarily the feet of his opponents. And he'll walk away, EG getting a very early 5v3 advantage.
Well, it's actually probably the scariest double kill of EXG's lives at this point, because if they lose this round, they lose the possibility for 3 points. If they do end up losing or drawing this game against Evil Geniuses, they then have to look on to the Dark Zero versus Rise matchup. Should they walk away with 3 points somehow, win the next 3 rounds consecutively, bouncing back from this 3v5 scenario in round number 10, they won't have to worry. It'll be guaranteed that Rise will finish in the 7th spot. So there's a lot on the line here in this particular round, and it's all going awry for EXG in the very moment. The smokes come raining out. Crusher will have to counter them very early on. A lot of utility utilized very early in the onset here. We got sprays coming through the smoke now from Geo as Young makes it to the bottom of Cool Vibe stairs. This is going to be an absolute collapse for Evil Geniuses.
It's a very pivotal round at which you can see EXG taking a bit too many chances. I think they didn't expect 2 bodies to be, taken out early on against Necrox, and it really takes the C7E in this position, but look at that! EXG with an answer of their own! They dominate that kill feed. 4 kills for EXG all the way down, and it'll be Necrox in this position who started off with the 2 kills, and that's all EG has so far. I don't think he's going to notice exactly where the full positioning of EXG is, and he might not be aware of the fact that Pojo and Crusher have also both been down. Oh, there he is! But Bio's there to be able to get him. Crusher was back up on 1 HP, it appeared. But there you go. What a play. That's a no-no right there. Don't say swears.
Yeah. Bad EXG. Don't swear in all chat.
Don't swear.
God.
Ignore the fact that Thermite swears in game.
Yeah.
Ignore that, please.
And Hibana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ignore the bad words.
And Clash.
Very pivotal round for Excelerate, though, because they stop EG from getting that 1 point. As you noted, even though Excelerate has that tiebreaker, you still go for full. You go for all 3 because you don't want to end up in that 7th position. And it was ultimately a very good round from Excelerate. Necrox was all on his own, and essentially the rest of EG pushed with very minimal information themselves, it appeared, and EXG countered every single fight.
Yeah, and for EG on that one, I mean, you have map control, you have man count advantage, you got 3 anchors left in this site, you got time, but again, I understand the pacing from Evil Geniuses, not exactly standard this evening. They're trying to have some fun with it, right? So clearly their fun did not account for the information that was kind of necessary to find out where Crusher was behind that bar. I mean, very default position. He just won out on gunfights, and that's another thing that's been happening as well, is EG have been happy, more than happy, to take gunfights against EXG. It seems like EXG aren't backing down at all. They aren't afraid in any capacity to go toe-to-toe with EG when it comes to pure gun skill. That's good. That's honestly really, really good for EXG to be able to keep fighting, because now you've drawn even in a round that looked like you were going to be very, very intently watching that Rise versus Dark Zero game. Now you have a chance to lock this thing up in 2 rounds still. It's a good start here for EXG as well on the defense. They're going to head to the Blue Bar and Sunrise Bar, as opposed to heading down to somewhere like Kitchen, where teams have had struggles all evening, and honestly, the last few games we've seen on Coastline, Kitchen hasn't been, I guess, very victorious for the defending side.
No, I was going to say, so Kitchen round 3, EG won on defense, lost it. Here, this is the... Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely does seem like the win metrics, or the win delta, or whatever you want to call it, of the various sites has kind of flipped this time around. I mean, the defense are going to get an advantage early on, taking out Canadian, but Schlongy's not going to be able to do all that much, as luckily for Canadian, NVK is there to have his back. Bio's the next one engaged in a fight. It's going to be with NVK, and NVK will still exist, just very, very low on HP. Looks actually like it might be exactly 1 HP, which is what a lot of people refer to low HP in FPS games, but is actually literally 1 HP.
Literally a breadstick in the HP column. Well, the good news is that he dealt nearly the same amount of damage onto Bio, and that's considerable considering NVK is a 2 armor and Bio is a 3 armor. So lots of shots ring out, but no one able to collect a final lethal blow. Flashbangs come out, but hitting the Legion Mine on top of the desk. Achieve with 2 now inside of the main lobby. Young and Necrox will fall. They'll reset NVK. A rare occurrence these days ever since the update, but it's NVK on 20, Geo on 100 to work out of a 2v4. NVK outside of the blue bar window spots 1 inside a courtyard, and Bio will fall. Ripping through targets 1 by 1 will be Evil Geniuses, trying to establish man advantage in certain engagements while being at the whole disadvantage. You've got air jabs now placed for any rotations into the blue bar door. You got to be worried about the rotate hole in the wall as well, and NVK will rotate it over to the Sunrise entrance to try and cordon this off. It's a small pre-placed hole inside of the barricade. You'll have to lock that down for Geo to try and attempt to plant, but you still got Crusher with smokes. Achieve can still launch out some Legion Mines. It's a precarious spot here to try and get a plant off.
Geo's just going to watch intently through that window, Crusher being in the pivotal position. Pojo Man not too far off. Nitro Cell in hand, so lots of opportunity for EXG to deny an advance. There's a body above, and Pojo actually just spots him. There you go. He's going to be crawling on his belly all the way in, and it's Geo. Hit the barbed wire on Cool Vibe stairs and begin his descent on downwards, but Achieved has that angle covered. They'll see him despite the fact that there's quite a bit of bottles in the way, and Achieved with yet another. That's 4 kills for Achieved. What a round for him in particular. Because of that, it's match point for EXG. They're only 2 points away from guaranteeing themselves out of that 7th place spot.
I'm sure if you're Rise Nation, you're looking on very intently. Now, no matter what, EXG is going to come away with a point. That means that Rise, no matter what, have to come away with a win. No matter what. If EXG are able to pull off this round right here, then the whole conversation is over. Rise will be playing the number 2 seed coming out of North American Challenger League. If Evil Geniuses can grab this round, then a draw won't even be enough for Rise. They have to get the full 3 against Dark Zero to overcome the tiebreak and overcome them in the standings to send EXG to that 7th place relegation game against the number 2 seed from Challenger League. So it all comes down to this one. We go the distance on Coastline between Evil Geniuses and Excelerate. Evil Geniuses having some fun, tinkering with lineups, tinkering with roles. EXG, season on the line with their backs against the wall and their future hopes possibly about to be dashed. They respond with 2 really, really excellent rounds back-to-back.
Yeah, Achieved in particular in that round really stole the show, but it wasn't even just his own play, it was the teamwork and the ability to support around him, right? You don't really often see Achieved in a primarily supporting role. He's usually on some kind of aggressive role. We see him on the, almost his trademark Buck on attack now. Actually seen teams ban Buck against EXG because they know how potent of an operator he is in the hands of Achieved. It's going to be another penthouse defense upstairs for EXG. The second time we're going to see it. A site that really doesn't see an awful lot of play, and it actually looks like EXG is going to run the exact same setup before.
Not really too surprised, and it seems like now EG have gone back to their standard roles. It looks like they might actually want this round. They might not want to lose. And I mean, yeah, it's EG. No one likes losing, but they're kind of going back to the norm right now, which is a little worrisome for Excelerate. Don't know if they'll still go for the same kind of pace that they've been setting on the side of Evil Geniuses, because they've been going Mach 10 right now throughout this entire attacking side, not really stalling for drones and stalling for information, just saying, hey, we're going to walk in, we're going to peek some default spots, and if we lose our gunfights, then c'est la vie. And for EXG right now, I guess you got to be ready for a slower round. The Jackal Pings will come out onto mute. That is Pojo Man over by the kitchen doorway, and Achieved is going to rotate through Blue Bar over to Office. Watch for anyone repelling outside the aquarium balcony. It is a Pent Theater defense, just to remind everyone, and it's a very widespread hold right now for EXG across the vastness of the map.
Yeah, it's going to actually be very difficult to drone out for EG, who have struggled on entry a number of times in the past, but you have a Jackal that will aid you. The only thing that will stop Necrox will be the mutes that are going to be brought from Pojo Man. Keep that in mind, what a play from Bio as he just walks right up to NVK on the window and guns him down.
Ooh, this is precarious here. The Jackal Pings will come out and achieved on the cardiac sensor. Crusher will find another one, so Canadian will fall. Hitting the air jab, though, with Schlongy, but no one in range to collect on the free kill. Inside of the main lobby, achieved with another one on the pixel angle. Necrox will fall, so will Geo. It's Young alone in a 1v5 in the theater hallway. Bearing down on him will be Schlongy inside of VIP, one from his backside of the theater stairs. Beautiful shot there with the bearing onto Crusher. Vault to the deployable into the big window, but Bio will lock it out, and Excelerate will send Rise Nation to the relegation game. The standings are set in North America.
There you have it. I like that you mentioned that EG was running a bit more of a normal composition, and they went back to the norm, as you called it, and it made, honestly, EXG have to work for it, and they did so quite well. So, overall, a pretty interesting game between these two teams. It started off kind of goofy, but it tended to straighten up a little bit, and, well, that's as big of a victory as EXG had in most of their matches this season, and when the stakes are the highest, EXG ends up coming out on top.
And that only spells doom for Rise Nation, as now they will be locked in the 7th seed. They will have to play no matter what happens in their game against Dark Zero. Now, it's over. The bottom portion of the standings are set. We have a relegation match. Of course, there is no auto relegation for anyone concerned about, who's going to finish 8th. Well, there aren't 8 teams anymore, so we kind of know who's going to get auto-relegated. It'll be the imaginary ghost of Orglis that will technically get auto-relegated, and then there will just be another opening in Challenger League in the qualifiers next season, as there has been for quite a few seasons in a row now.
Acid and Crazy not escaping the relegation scenario, because even though they weren't on Orglis, who, as you mentioned, disbanded, they will find themselves still competing in the relegation matchup, which will be coming up in some time.
Yep.
The Rise Nation fighting off any possibility of maybe losing their spot. And as we said this, NA Challenger League is extremely competitive right now.
Yeah.
There used to be a time and there used to be a place where teams would, kind of be okay with fighting in relegations because it was pretty much assured that you were going to make it out.
Yeah.
Especially in North American Challenger League, where 1 or 2 seasons I recall, the top team in NA Challenger League appeared to be Pro League ready, but not many down below did. Mm-hmm. I would say there are a few teams in NA Challenger League who, if not Pro League ready, are a couple games away from being there. And that's what's going to be worrisome for Rise Nation. So even though they did have this triumphant resurgence in the second half of the season, they did put up an awful lot of points. They still have an opportunity, to pad their stats against Dark Zero in the next match.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter. Once again, as we have shown with teams that fall a point or 2 short of making it to the playoffs, what you take for granted in the first half of the season ends up coming back to haunt you. Mm-hmm. Rise Nation had a bad first half of the season, and it got a lot better for them, but just like last season, they came so close to making it to Rio because of their triumphant run through the second half. If they had have picked up a couple more points in the first half last season, they probably would have gone to Rio. They probably would have avoided auto-relegation, or, relegation in this case, that 7th place spot, had they picked up more points in the first half this season.
Yeah, and for Excelerate, I mean, hey, tough start. Good grindy resiliency, though, for the rest of the season, honestly. A couple roster changes throughout the course of the season as well. I mean, that's going to add turmoil to your season. It's going to add uncertainty and doubt to the rest of the team. They stuck with it, and they held strong, and they put up a good performance here against an Evil Genius team that was having fun. And for Evil Geniuses, the outlook is the same. You're still going to Milan. You're still the #1 seed. You're guaranteed to play a #2 seed, and it won't be Dark Zero. So your opportunities are a rematch against Nora, a rematch against Lestream, or whoever finishes second in LATAM, which could be any one of... Actually, it can't be IMT, so it could be FaZe or NIP. Immortals can't. They're the 1 seed or the 3 seed. They can't get 2.
No, because oh, is that true?
Yeah.
You have to dive
Someone did a breakdown on it.
Yeah, because they play FaZe. So if FaZe wins, then FaZe goes. The winner of IMT FaZe goes no matter what. If there's a victory there, the winner of that matchup will go. If they draw, they end up in that, and NIP win, then they end up in that 3-way tie in which FaZe doesn't go, and it's Immortals going first overall versus Ninjas in Pajamas. So there you have it. So, I mean, you won't play Immortals, but they didn't play Immortals in the groups anyway.
No.
I would have to go back. I think the last time...
EG Immortals?
when was the last time they played FaZe? It must have been the Invitational in 2018 when they played FaZe in the first round, which came down to that pivotal matchup on Skyscraper, which neither team really played.
No, that was a weird game too.
Ninjas in Pajamas and EG. You'd have to go back.
Paris.
Paris, yeah.
Quarterfinals of Paris.
Yeah, because they were the only Latin America team, Ninjas in Pajamas.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so for Evil Geniuses, 2 out of your 3 possible matchups, you're in a good spot. I mean, you crushed Lestream, albeit via comeback in the first day of group stage at SI19. Down pretty handily on Villa, but able to pull that back.
I think that broke LSE's spirits.
Yeah.
I think that was the killer right there. That matchup was what ultimately derailed LSE for the rest of the groups.
So that would be a good game. But if you're EG, you 2-0'd them. You're feeling pretty confident about that. You're able to clear Nora as well. It was a much closer game, but Nora without Waka is a different beast entirely.
I would say a weaker beast.
Yes.
Going in.
And, if you get a Latin American team, I mean, EG have had good success against all Latin American teams that they've faced in history. They haven't really had, I guess, an upset taken against them by a Latin American. There have been close games. Like that EG FaZe game from SI18 was phenomenal. But like you said, it came down to a Skyscraper match that neither team really played, and I don't know, your outlook looks good here for Evil Geniuses.
Because let's go back through EG's run through Latin America. It was in Sao Paulo, they played ENCE, they lost quarters. 6 Invitational. They didn't have a Latin America team in their group, in Group A.
Nope.
It was Vitality, 1-up Penta in them.
Yep.
Which is now G2 and which are now Navi. And then they played FaZe in the quarters. They beat FaZe. They played Rogue in the semis. They beat Rogue. They lost in the finals. Atlantic City, they lost to G2. Paris, who was in their group for Paris? Immortals was in their group for Paris, were they not?
Oh, right. I think it was them. So it was EG, Immortals, Element Mystic, which is now Cloud9. And I don't remember the 4th team in that group.
I actually don't remember the group stages for Paris.
But I remember FaZe was in Group D, which
was Secret, Orglos, and Rogue. That was a fun group.
Yeah, that was a messy.
That was a really fun group.
So I guess EG went 2-0 out of groups at Paris as well. So I guess
because NIP came out of the group where they played Fnatic twice.
Yeah.
They were in the same group as G2, were they not?
I believe so.
It was NIP, Fnatic, was Mocket, the old Mocket, which is now Penta, if I remember correctly. Panix was on that squad, if I remember.
It's like almost a year ago.
Or was it Liven? The Paris Major group stages, the group stages are tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm decently certain that Immortals was in EG's group in the Paris Major, and then they beat NIP in the quarters.
Yep.
The only Latin American team who got out of it, and they beat NIP, in which I was actually kind of surprised that it wasn't a closer game between the two of them.
True.
If I remember correctly, I casted the EG NIP matchup.
I believe you did, yeah.
And then with Kicks, and then in Rio they lost to Fnatic in the first round in an incredible game. And then, 6 Invitational. Yeah, interestingly enough. Anyway, we have an interview ready for you with Pojo Man. Hello, sir. Congratulations. Nice poach face.
Thank you.
All right. So, first question. Were you expecting them not to ban anything?
No, definitely weren't expecting that. We figured they'd just ban Buck like everyone else has been doing. And they just didn't ban it. I mean, if they're trying to hide stuff, I guess it makes sense. But like a lot of those ops that they might have banned, they might use as well. So who knows? But yeah, definitely wasn't expecting that. So we expected 5 ACOGs on the first round, and I think we got it. So
you did.
We were kind of anticipating that.
Did you feel the game tighten up at all? Because from our perspective, it definitely seemed like a lot of the chances that EG were taking in the first couple rounds did tend to change as the game went on, but then they also ran young on Ashe for attack. So
yeah, like the first few rounds were kind of just all over the place, and then it kind of tightened up, and then we're like, okay, we actually have to play a little more structured than we're used to, because usually kind of match like random aggression with your own random aggression. So like as soon as Glaz started coming out, I just had to peek him. So that's the only way I'm going to survive.
We saw the return of Poach Zera today. as we like to call him. Would you like to walk us through your breakfast routine to get to that level today?
Breakfast routine, let me see. I had a banana and an orange and a cup of coffee.
And that's it.
That was it. That was all I had.
That's half of what Troy eats for breakfast, so no.
I'm working on it.
Since you've joined the team, what do you think the biggest change has been that you've seen both as a coach and then as a player on the transformation behind the team? Because there was a bit of a change we saw when Tomas jumped onto the roster, and it seems like there's been other changes as well since you became an active player.
In terms of, like, Tom is a really good player. Like, I think he's still, like, an insanely talented player. I think we just wanted to, like, clean up attacks and make them more consistent. That was the main thing. And I think the biggest thing is communication. Like, the amount of calmness now that we have as opposed to when I first joined is, like, it's night and day. It's completely different. Like, it used to be super panicked if anything would happen. People were yelling things, and now it's just what's happening, what's going on, and then the elevation of how important it is determined. So it's not, like, overly yelly for everything. So that was the main thing.
Now, you're out of that, dreaded 7th place auto-relegation spot as you hold the tiebreaker over Rise Nation. Looking towards Season 10, in the off-season and onwards, what would you assess as the number one thing that the team needs to focus on? And I ask you this in particular because you have a wealth of experience in Pro League, and I would imagine that you are probably inhabiting the role of the elder statesman of EXG so far, who has seen quite a lot of stuff in his time in Pro League.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing going forward is probably just more strategies, more diverse strategies, and actually having them, like, more fleshed out as opposed to, like, on the fly as much. Like, we didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of prepare me for these matches, so once we kind of get in that groove, I think we'll start doing quite a bit better.
Well, congratulations on your season. Congratulations, you in particular. I do enjoy your choice of jersey for the interview. Any prediction for the next matchup? I know that you would probably be rooting for Dark Zero, given
of course
that they're playing Rise. But yep. I think I speak for a lot of the community when I say it's genuinely nice to see you back and in top form. So thank you so much for the interview. Anything you want to say? Any pucks you want to get deep, etc. at the end of the interview?
No, I just thanks to all the fans for supporting us. Thanks to actually EXG for supporting us and being really helpful last few weeks. So that's about it. Get pucks deep, get pucks in the net, and win some hockey games.
Awesome. Go whichever team you might be cheering for. Go. Enjoy your off season.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.